Hi, Christophe. How are you?
Fine. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you because, I know obviously Return to Silent Hill is also a return to the franchise for you after almost 2 decades. So I guess to begin with, I would love to know what was it that drew you back to this world of Silent Hill so far after that first film?
Simply because I wanted to adapt Silent Hill 2 back in 2006, but I had the feeling that it was maybe too early. It was uh, something so sophisticated and so different from the horror film that we were seeing back in, 20 years ago. Then I decided just to adapt the first game. For me, it was a wise decision because I put all my energy on the recreation of the world of Silent Hill, of your environment, and it was plenty of work to do that. And now, 20 years after, I say, okay, now I can go deep into the psychology, the philosophy of that strange world of Silent Hill. And for me, the challenge was put on to recreate, in fact, that nightmarish feeling of a very, very sad and disturbing love story.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to adapting a specific game like Silent Hill 2, obviously there things have to change for the film. I know the game has multiple endings, for example, a couple of jokey ones as well. So when it came to deciding what to pluck from the game and how to handle that, was that a big challenge as well?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I have adapted the first ending that I had when I played the first time, and that was the one at the bottom of the lake, and it stayed in my memory forever, because it was so unusual, in a video game at that time that as a reward you had no victory, but in fact you had the truth about yourself, and it was, you see what I mean, it was usually in video game you have a reward. Here it was just the truth, and it was very disturbing, and it's why plenty of people consider Silent Hill 2 as maybe the first adult video game made on PlayStation, for sure,
Yeah, it's a classic, no doubt. And of course, Pyramid Head is a big part of that. So I'd love to know,
Mhm.
obviously, with the technology 2 decades on from that first film, what was the process of bringing that character back to the screen and making him look as good as he does in the finished film?
It's. I remember very well that some fan were, annoyed by the fact that I put him into the first film because Pyramid Head is very much related to the story of James Sunderland because, as the fan know, he's actually a doppelganger of James. And but for me, in the first film, and I talk a lot with Akira Yamaoka, one of the creators of the Silent Team. I talked to him because I wanted to be sure that I will not do something too too disrespectful, and he said, no, 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 you can go. We need a totem. We need an icon for this world. And in the first film, I would say that Pyramid Head is the totem of Silent Hill. But in the second film, in this one, in Return to Silent Hill, is now he came back to its original meaning, and all the monster too, all the monster in this film have the meaning that they have not in the first film. Yeah, that new film is much more playing on the symbol, and the fact that the monster are not just a monster, ready to kill you, but they represent a part of the agony of Mary. And that's why, I was very pleased also to somewhere have a much more orthodox approach on this one than I had on the first film.
Yeah, well, I cannot wait for people to see this pyramid head in action. And you know, with the video games, so much of that is obviously experienced and controlled by the player, you know, as they are in your hands. So when it comes to bringing a movie audience into this world and putting them into James's shoes, what was that experience like for you? Obviously, I know you did a little bit of that with the first film as well, but is that a big challenge as well to in terms of the adaptation side of things?
You know, adapt a video game movie is not a simple thing, you know, simply because, of course, it's much more interesting to actually play a character and explore an environment like the one of Silent Hill than just sitting passively in front of a screen, you know. For me, what was interesting is that first I had to do a movie that people who have no knowledge about Silent Hill can watch. But for the fan, you know, I was hoping that the film will be like a discussion with their own feeling about the game. You know, I I, I think that basically every player has his own interpretation of the game. You know, his own interpretation of all the symbols that you can cross into the game, and all these interpretations are actually right. You know, and so it's why, you know, I try to imagine my film as, yeah, a conversation with fun, you know, saying, okay, that's what I think about what means that scene or that scene. It's why all the iconic scenes are into my adaptation, because that's the moment where actually you can start a dialogue with a chat with the Silent Hill buff, you know, and because when you go on all the chat, you know, between fans, you can see that they are only talking about their own perception, you know, what they understood when they were playing, and that's interesting, you know, that's interesting. It makes the creation of Silent Hill so interesting, so modern, you know. The only time we have seen something like that, maybe it was when Lost, the TV series was aired, you know, the fan were becoming crazy about, you know, and I know that the screenwriter of Lost were constantly going to check what the fans were saying, because sometimes they had to rewrite, you know, the episode, because the fan actually had a better idea than themselves, you know. And I did that also, you know, when I did my adaptation of Silent Hill. Sometime, you know, I decide that my idea was the one that I would like to shoot, and sometime, you know, I read some version on the web, and they say, yeah, that's maybe a better idea than the one I had, you know. So sometime, you know, I have adapted an, a fan idea than my own idea, you know. It happened in the film.
Yeah, so interesting because I think this is a real fan-pleasing film, and that extends as well to the presence of those nurses and how they're portrayed. And I know you've talked about using dancers and acrobats for the creatures, so that was that a big part of how you wanted to approach them with this film, even with the modern technology you can obviously use to enhance what we see on screen.
You know, on the first film, when I decided to use acrobats and dancers to play the monster, it was a nice way to save money. And
Yeah.
producers were very happy. They were very happy. You say, "Oh, that's great! You know, you want to do everything with a real person and not animatronic." And I say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, we are going to do like that. It's very interesting." So they were very pleased. On this one, I think they would have preferred that we push everything in post-production and do everything with CG. But I say, no, 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 no. No, no, it's impossible. We are going to keep this idea that everything is actually practical on the sets, you know, because of course there is some CG effect in the film, but basically what you are seeing on the screen is 75% bio,
Wow.
made for real. You know, what I use the CG sometimes to change some shape of, for example, of the limbs of, for example, the lying figure. I use CG to extend some sets, but basically everything was in front of the camera,
Wow.
and uh, and it helped the actor and everything, and it helped this world of Silent Hill to be concrete, you know, to be as real as possible. simply because we are dealing with the hallucination of somebody. And an hallucination look always very, very real to the person who's living an hallucination. If not, it's not an hallucination, it's a mirage. So, and so for me, it was really the philosophy of the film. Make everything as real as possible, just to increase the hallucination of the film.
Amazing. Well, Christophe, thank you so much for your time. I think fans are going to absolutely love this one, and it's been such a pleasure speaking to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats on the movie. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.